Hello YouTube, William here. I am back working on the Case 310 Dozer project. I have decided, been thinking about it a long time, we're finally done planting, harvesting, etc. And I think while I'm in this deep, before I put my new radiator on, I'm going to go after the water pump. So that is what we are going to work on and bring you along on today. Okay, we've got our thermostat port loose. Definitely going to be putting a new gasket on there. I'll see if I can wiggle out the thermostat next. Going to be putting that in new because I'm in here. Don't plan to come back. Then we're going to take our fan off and see what it takes to get the water pump redone. Okay, this thermostat was just sitting in here. Looks to be original in my mind. I will clean it up, look for numbers. Otherwise, I believe a standard thermostat will be going right back in there, and I'm not seeing too many barnacles, which is a good indicator of regular, consistent use. Fan is ready to pop off. Simple removal. Now we can get to our faceplate bolts. Alright, so far I am not disappointed in myself for pulling it. We've got our pulley pulled off, or our shiv, and looks like we've got some profound crusties developing. Not sure if that's coming out of the rocker gasket here or if it's leaking antifreeze, but we're gonna redo the pump and find out. We've got our water pump pulled. It doesn't look too bad. I'm going to look for a replacement and then we will see what we can come up with. Good morning YouTube, William here. I am finally starting to work full throttle on the Dozer project again. Thought I would quickly go over our parts that we've received. It's been about 3 or 4 days since I last shot any footage, the beginning of this video. I went down to the local Napa. I picked up a new 180-degree thermostat. I believe this one to be original. Looks very vintage. This is our direct replacement. Took my caliper along. Every dimension seems to add up. Got a ready-made gasket right away. A little bit shorter on the edges, but will work just fine for this application. Went to the local Rural King this morning and picked up some grade 8 inch long 3/8 bolts. Unfortunately, Case decided they wanted 7/8 bolts. These came out so hard that when this specific one actually came loose, I thought I had twisted it off. So I put way too much tension. You kind of get a feel for these things over the years. I put so much tension on this, I kind of have a feeling I stressed it. Finally came, so I'm going to chase my threads and put in a brand new bolt. These I will have to polish down with my flap disc. Not a big deal. I do that all the time. I went to Ag Kits online. Not a big deal. I just Googled Case 310 diesel water pump. Apparently with the gasoline engines, the impeller is smaller. This one is 3 inches and 1/8, I believe. 3.125. This is my replacement. It came extremely well packaged. I spared you all the boredom of an unboxing video. The reason I went with this one, it has our same bosses on the side. It has the same style of weep on the bottom for the seals. Covered in cosmoline, just like Squatch 253 talks about. Good old part, and unless I'm mistaken, this is made in 1972. It's just been sitting around. Greasy, old, nasty beautifulness. Can't wait to install this. These parts are so cheap and prevalent at the moment. I don't think I'm even going to attempt to rebuild this, anything like that. Came with a set of instructions, several different languages, read through them, nothing I didn't know already. So that's awesome. Another reason I went with this one, it came with the gasket. I don't have the time to be messing with gaskets. This is just going to be a grunt dozer. Nothing too nice about it, but I do want to do it properly while I'm in there. That's the whole reason for the thermostat, which was probably working fine, but put a new one in. New gasket where applicable, new gasket. Here is the part number. If you go to the Ag Kits website. They also say in the instructions to back up your gaskets with some kind of a sealant. I've always had really good luck with RTV Blue. Your experience may differ. That's just what I use. No rhyme or reason. I'm going to clean all of my mating surfaces with a fine sandpaper on a flat surface. And then we are going to get installing this stuff. I've rambled on long enough. Please pardon the noise of the heater and the torpedo heater outside. Decided to just go sandblast the dickens out of this thing because it was just covered in tons of barnacles on the outside where the coolant had just set against the raw cast iron. I'm going to now get this on a flat surface, sand the bottom to make it shiny again, nice polished mating surface, and then we'll work on getting that installed. Using some 600 grit here, it really does not take long to start bringing this stuff back. You can just see how much pitting was in that from just coolant over the years. Kind of interesting. Getting a nice mirrored finish. I'm gonna stone this just a little bit more. Not really stoning, just on a plain wood top with 600 grit, but it's coming right along, doing nice. We're gonna keep going. Okay, here you can see our bolts, freshly ground down. I did go just a little bit shorter than the original due to the fact that we did polish this down quite a bit. So that should take up any change that we've had. Brand new, grade 8. And one of these I did notice, I believe it's this one, the lock washer is actually broken. So it's a good thing we're changing these, and grade 8 hardware is going to go a long way, and I think I did stress these bolts as I removed them. Okay, preliminary fit up on everything is absolutely excellent. Hindsight being 2020, a quick test with the 1-inch bolts, they would have worked just fine. We have a 1/4 inch here to take up, plus we will have a gasket here. I've polished everything to the best of my ability. New thermostat setting in, a little bit of side play. Nothing that's going to matter. Polish this as you've already seen. Very bright in here. And the heavy pitting on this, the RTV will take up. That's why they say use a nice thin coat. It does feel good, I will say, to finally start reassembling something. Game plan for the rest of the day, if I get nothing else done, is thermostat and water pump installed, curing. Then I can take a sigh of relief and start on something else, perhaps hydraulic pump, hydraulic pressure side line. We have all of that stuff made, just didn't want to do anything until we got everything in the launch, so to speak. Any of you that guessed we would be using anti-seize lubricant on these new bolts, advance to the head of the class. We have our bolts put in finger tight, as the instructions talk about on the RTV Blue. In an hour we will come turn them a half turn tighter, and then in 24 hours we will cinch them down completely. Thin layer of RTV on all the mating surfaces, even on the gaskets, just to back that gasket up a little bit. She's 1965, she's well used. A little bit of gasket sealer goes a long way. You don't want it squishing out all over the place. I am using gaskets where applicable, but I am also a big fan of RTV Blue. Okay, we have all of our mating surfaces cleaned. We chased our threads to the best of our ability. A lot of light bouncing around. I don't know how well that's going to turn up. Cleaned everything with brake cleaner. I'm now going to see how our fit up is on the water pump, and then thin layer of RTV and gasket, thin layer of RTV on the water pump, tighten up hand tight, anti-seize of course, and let it cure. Starting to run out of time today, but we'll see what else we can throw on this old girl. It's getting exciting finally being in the reassembly phase of the project. I kind of hate to lose the old hardware, however it's well flogged out. I have one mystery star lock washer. I'm just going to replace it, put on 3 regular lock washers, keep an eye on it. I don't think I'll have any problems, but it's not an authentic machine. It's not original. I don't care to make it original. Not my cup of tea. The other thing to consider is when you do see new hardware, you think one or two things. One, someone's been in there and it's a nightmare, so they just buttoned it back up. Or you think someone has been in there and they knew what they were doing. I will have the videos for proof of what is in here. But generally you can tell by the condition of other maintained equipment, things of that nature. Handshake and a smile goes a long way in my book. So if I see bolts on something that's replaced, I think a good handshake goes a long way in telling whether the guy is honest or not. All right, we've got our water pump installed. Check to see that it turns freely. Everything appears to be good. Did have a bit of a panic moment. I RTV'd one side of the gasket and was going to stick it on the studs, and then it wouldn't go on. I actually had to turn the gasket over 180 degrees and slide it on. So that was a little annoying, but nothing to really panic about. I was just like, oh great, now I've got to go make a gasket. But everything worked out. Just needed inverted 180 degrees. We have our, as far as I can tell, 1972 water pump installed on the old Case 310. I'm going to clean up my area. I have kind of a little bit of everything, anti-seize, paper towels, sandpaper, you name it, out, kind of laying everywhere. Let this cure for a little while, then I'll cinch them up the half a turn it calls for, and we'll see what other kind of trouble we can get into yet today. All right, I have my direction I need to proceed. Wasn't sure what I wanted to get into, but the order of assembly is going to dictate what I have to do. I cannot install my belt until I have my alternator installed, and I cannot install the belt with the hydraulic pump installed. Alternator is the next thing on the docket.